I'm Chris, and I'm your Commander Mechanic, here with another Let's Do a Brew. But before we get started, I wanted to remind you that if you like our content, please subscribe to the channel. We are well on our way to 3,000 subscribers, and I would love to hit that goal before November starts. Today on the show, we've got a very special guest. It's another member of the Commander Advisory Group, none other than Charlotte Sable herself. Charlotte, welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
It is an absolute honor to have another member of the Commander Advisory Group on the show. I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to go out in the community and, help people understand where the RC and CAG are coming from and get more perspectives to bring back to the others. So
absolutely.
Not a problem at all.
And that's exactly what the audience is looking for, a little bit of an insight into what's going on behind the scenes. But the Commander Advisory Group is just one thing that we might know you by. How else might our audience might have heard of you?
Well, I'm a level 3 magic judge. I've been judging for over 10 years now. I also run the Magic Judge Tumblr, which has been going for about that long as well.
Right.
Though that's currently been on a bit of hiatus, but it will return. It's not done. Just, life happens, right? Yeah. But yeah, and then otherwise, you've probably seen me on some EDH gameplay streams. I've been on with tons of people like Chase, Mana Curves. I was on with Kess last week on the MM's cast stream. Mm-hmm. Various other streams. I've been on the RC stream and Olivia's stream and all sorts of other things. And you might also know me from Twitter, where I'm at JackalGirl, JQLGirl.
Fantastic. Yeah. And pro follow, I've got to say, love your account on Twitter. You are definitely one to follow. So,
thank you. I appreciate that.
It is great to see you and great to have you out. You are definitely very involved with the community in terms of the content creation community. Have you really seen a swell and an uptick from the Commander community since the whole global situation has gone down this year?
A little bit, definitely. I mean, the biggest change obviously has been all of the webcam Commander play and streams for that. Like when this first started, I hadn't really heard of it, and then I found out about Olivia's stream, and I already had a webcam and a microphone and stuff. So I, got something clutched together and started doing that, and more people started doing that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's really been a huge change in the number of things. Because I mean, everyone's taking this whole situation differently. Some people, have more time and more energy, and some don't. Mm-hmm. And, that's fine. Everyone's handling it their own way, right?
Absolutely. And for a community like this, and for a hobby and a passion like this, when people don't get out to an LGS and play games, they're looking for an outlet. They're looking for a way to play their favorite decks and be social.
Yeah, and exactly. I mean, I'm just so glad that the whole webcam Commander thing and later on Spell Table all came together, because the fact that the Commander community is still so active and so passionate and still going so strong right now. I mean, a lot of people probably, if you told them that was the situation, 6 months into this whole thing, 7 months in, most people probably wouldn't believe you, because how are people going to play, right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love about this uptick in webcam Commander is that you can play with people all over the world.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And that is a big plus for you as well, since you are where right now?
I live in Finland currently, so.
Fantastic. And that's definitely not standard with many of the other content creation communities.
No, of course.
So it's a little bit of a hoop to jump through for you to play with people, but you still get to play with people that you wouldn't normally get to sit down and sling spells with, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I've played with so many fun, cool people from this, made new friends,
Absolutely.
Just gotten to know a bunch of people a lot better, and it's been really, really great. Like, I mean, I never actually had played a game of Commander with almost anyone from the RC or CAG until this whole thing started. I played with a couple at like GPs and stuff in the past, but like, for the most part, I hadn't actually played with like Sheldon or, it had been, years since I played with Toby and, that sort of thing. Right.
Yeah.
And like, I literally have never met in person anyone else on the CAG. Right. Like I'd known Ron for a while, but after he left, I've literally not met another CAG member in the flesh. So.
Right. But now you get to sit down and play Commander with them. Right. So,
exactly.
It hasn't been great for the global community, but what's going on in the world right now has certainly helped Commander thrive and Commander players grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
With that being said, and playing webcam Magic yourself, what are some of your favorite decks to play online?
Well, it really depends on the moment and the feel and, what I've updated recently and whatnot. I'm up to 15 decks now, which I know isn't a lot compared to some people, but it's more than most people have. So
absolutely. I'll make sure to link to your decks in the description of the video as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have all my decks up on Tapped Out, so you can take a look at them. Like my most recent deck I've been having a blast with, that's a Kogla human tribal deck.
Very nice.
Which is a lot of fun. Like Kogla's just a ridiculous card just by itself. Like
right.
And give me 2 seconds here. The whole genesis of the deck is actually a cool story. Back when Ikoria came out, and like with the whole Godzilla series and everything, there was. Sorry, I'll restart that so you can clip it with the noise. Back when Ikoria came out with the whole Godzilla series and everything, and with Kogla coming out, I was like excited, and I figured, they'll have a King Kong card for this guy, right? Yeah. And then there wasn't, and which is weird because even though King Kong's been in a couple of Godzilla movies, and there's a new Godzilla and Kong movie that was supposed to come out this year, but it's now been pushed out to next year. Right. But there's still no Kong card, which is like, it would have been one extra step for them to get the rights for that. Like I'm sure, Universal or whoever has. Who is it that owns Kong? Is it MGM? I don't know. I have no idea.
Right.
But whoever, anyway. But So basically, I was annoyed and I wanted my Kong, and then I ended up talking to ALK Alters, a really great
friend of the show.
Yeah. And we got to talking, and he agreed to make me a Kong. So he made me a couple of Kong things.
Oh, that's amazing.
So there's the black and white one, which was my idea, and then the new Kong as well.
Oh, incredible. Yeah. Both of those fantastic.
And so basically, once he agreed to make me those and sent them to me, it's like, well, I guess I'm making this deck now. But then I finally got the deck put together a couple of weeks ago now, and it's been great. It's not like super combo or super powerful, but it's a really fun deck, and it's surprisingly decent for mono green and for a human tribal in green, which
absolutely
it really limits a lot of the stuff I can play, right?
And with Kogla's ability, you've got some combo potential in the deck as well, but it takes quite a bit to reel that back and not go full power.
Well, as far as I know, there aren't any really easy to do infinite combos with it, but just his ability to pick up humans and replay them, being able to replay Eternal Witness, or one of the ones that's actually surprisingly strong is from the newest Theros set. There's a card called Citizen Petitioner.
Yes.
That's a 2/2, and ETB you gain life equal to your devotion to green. Mm-hmm. And it's I can just bounce that and be gaining 11 life a turn, which is, unless someone's getting a commander damage kill on me, that's pretty hard to get through.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, with Kogla's attack naturalize ability, the real gem card is liquid metal coating, which is just now that's a Vindicate.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, mind you, it's good enough as is most of the time. It's usually whoever you're attacking is going to have some artifact or enchantment you want to kill anyway, but being able to blow up that Cabal coffers or whatever.
Exactly. And when artifacts and enchantments are some of the most powerful things that you can play in this format, being able to kill them on demand is great on its own. But when you start saying, you can turn that ability into a strip mine, if you want.
Exactly.
That turns into pretty powerful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But even just the incidental stuff is like the other day I was playing it and it was like, oh, I'll attack into you and I'll blow up your Courser of Prefix just naturally, right? Because that's an enchantment.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, there you go. So it's a really fun deck. It's good. I quite enjoy that one.
That's great. And those are the kind of interactions that give you cool stories further down the road too, right? That's one of the best things about Commander is that everybody has their stories about the amazing games that they've played or the great plays that they've made, and that's something that unifies the community.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of other decks, I love all my decks, otherwise I wouldn't have them, obviously. But let's see, just rattling off a few other ones. I just recently updated my Angus Mackenzie deck to have a very strong mutate theme, which is really cool.
Very nice.
That plays really well. I have my Sphinx Storm deck, which is on the stronger end of my decks. Very fun, very weird deck, but very cool. Let's see what else is good that I have. What else? I have a meme goblin deck.
Right.
Basically, that's another story. I had joked for years that there's so many cards with just goblin in the name that you could probably make a decent deck out of just those, right?
Yeah, and that's the Ib Half-Heart one, right?
Right, it's currently Ib Half-Heart. The once I get my hands on one, it's going to be a Muxus. But
nice. Nice.
So basically, the theme of this deck is every card other than Basic Mountain in the deck has to have goblin or some planar or regional variant of goblin in the name of the card, not in the type. There's plenty of goblins I can't play. Like I can't play what's his name, Kranko, or
But you can play something like Mog Salvage because Mogs are the goblin.
They're just like one of the 2 spells in the deck, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But on the other hand, I can also play Mog Catcher, which isn't a goblin but can fetch up goblins, which is good. But but like you find really weird things. But like literally, Muxus is just literally the perfect new commander for that deck because the biggest problem with that deck is it just folds really hard to any board wipe because I don't have any way to recover, right?
Right.
But now Muxus is just like, oh, well, you wipe my board, sure, I'll play Muxus. Oh, here's like 5 more goblins, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's a fun deck. It's not good. It's like by far my weakest deck, but it can still be fun, and it's a fun challenge to make the deck as good as I can within this very tight constraint, right?
Absolutely.
And it gives me something special to look for during spoiler seasons, right? It's like, that's goblin. like Conspicuous Snoop, if that just had goblin in the name somewhere or something, like, no, but now I can't play it. And it's like,
Right. And you can't play something like a Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker in the deck either, right?
No.
It's fantastic.
But then there's also some other hidden gems. One of the cards in that deck is actually, I think, should see more play, especially in token decks. There's a card called Kirin Negotiations.
Okay.
It's an enchantment from Mercadian Masks, the most powerful of sets, obviously. It's a 2/2 red enchantment, and you tap an untapped creature you control to deal 1 damage to target player or planeswalker.
Right.
Which is like ridiculous.
Well, especially if you go really wide, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. But like, it's just a really good card, and it should be seeing a ton more play, right?
Absolutely.
Just one of those weirdo old cards that's never been reprinted and that sort of stuff.
Right. I can see people that make the Kranko mob boss decks that make infinite goblins not be able to attack because there's a ghostly prison or a propaganda out that want a way to get a little bit of reach with those tokens.
Exactly.
That's a perfect card for it.
Exactly. Like, or like, one of my other decks, one of my other new decks is a Xyrus
Snakes
deck. Yeah. And I don't play it in that deck because I'm playing it in the Goblin deck. But it would be a great card for that deck as well, just to be like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
so when you sit down and you make a deck, do you say, I want to build a deck around a theme? Or do you say, I want to build my deck around an interaction?
Almost always I'll start with a commander more than anything.
Okay.
Right. I very rarely sit down. I'm not the type of person who sits down, I want to build a deck that does X, you know, and then I build the deck and then I find the commander. That's not how I do it.
Right.
I almost always start from the commander or commanders in case of partner or whatever. And then I sort of build that way. And I'm weird in that I can't just go and type up a deck list. I need to, when I build decks, I don't know, I need to build with physical cards in hand. Right. So I envy these people who can like brew all the new cards, like, you know, as soon as they're spoiled. But like, I mean, I personally am like, I'm waiting till I have cards in hand. Like, I know I want a card for a specific deck.
Right.
But, you know, I don't change my lists until I actually, you know, physically have the cards. And, you know, I'm still getting in all my Zendikar Rising stuff. So a lot of my decks aren't updated yet because I don't have the cards in hand.
Right.
And so when I'm building a new deck, basically step one is find the commander, figure out what sort of themes or sub-themes I want to put in. Mm-hmm. And then I just sort of, I mean, I'm lucky in that I've been playing for a long while. So I have a relatively large collection. Mm-hmm. So I just basically amass cards in like a box or a pile. Like this box typically is my project box, right? Just a old Ultra Pro dual deck box thing. I'll basically put together about that many worth of cards, you know, together in the box. And then once I know I'm not missing any more key pieces, I'll basically sit down and start laying out the cards and make sure I don't have any duplicates for one thing. That's
right.
And then basically just do iterative passes over it, you know?
Right.
First, that's just literally my process at that point. It's like, okay.
Once you have a deck together and you've played it a few times, how often do you make changes to it?
All the time. I mean, especially like when a deck is new, I'm always tweaking it just because, you know, what I've found for me as well is the best way to actually get a deck put together is to just, once I have that pile of cards, is just put 100 cards together.
Right.
Just have a deck I can play because I'm going to get more information and more feel from the deck by actually even just goldfishing it. Like, I'm going to get more from it by having this deck I can play than by fussing over, well, do I want this or that or this or that? And it's like when you're actually making those decisions of putting the deck together and then playing the deck, you know, then it's like, okay, well, I think I want this over this, or I think I need another land, or I think I need, you know, another removal spell or whatever, right?
That really does show a difference between data-driven deck building versus practically driven deck building. That I think shows two very different sides to the process. Yeah. I, for instance, I sit down and I build out a full list and I go over the stats and I make refinements to it before I ever put a deck together. Yeah. Then I play it for a few rounds. I play it on stream or I play it with friends, and then I start making edits to it. Yeah. Where many people are like yourself and they just need to put a pile of 100 cards together and then say, this works well, this could work better, I like this card in it, and make the changes from there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I just, again, because like I know, you know, because usually in the process, you know, if you have your pile of like, you know, 150, 200 cards, you're going to have the stuff that comes off in the first pass. And it's like, well, this stuff would be nice, but it's just by far worse than these other 20 cards that also aren't in the deck. Yeah. Right. But then those 20 cards, you know, it's like you have them in your head when you play those first few games. And it's like, okay, I think this probably would have been better in that situation. And then, you know, you try it out and you sort of iterate on it. And, you know, and again, a lot of times, especially with more sort of strange decks, I find personally, sometimes a deck isn't going to be what you think it is at first, right? Sometimes a deck is going to tell you what it is, and that thing isn't necessarily what you had in mind, right? Right. Like another one of my decks is I have an Okon and Zinder split coin flip deck, right? And when I first built that deck, I built it as, you know, the sort of typical, let's just jam as many coin flip cards in here as I can, right? And that was okay, but a lot of the coin flip cards aren't very good. Right. Let's just put it that way. A lot of them just aren't very good, and I wasn't having fun with the deck like that. And so I started making changes to it, and then the deck sort of started taking this interesting shape where it became very much about getting Oakland through for like one-shot kills on people, right?
Yeah, right.
Which is still very fun, but not quite in the same way, right?
Yeah.
And then, but it's also like, but even though I had found that direction and I moved into that direction, I still wasn't necessarily happy with the deck. And in that situation, I actually realized that I was actually thinking about taking the deck apart because I wasn't enjoying that version of it. Mm-hmm. But I literally at that point just needed to, like, after talking it over with a few people, it's like I literally just had to sort of step back and say, okay, this isn't maybe the deck I wanted, but the deck it has become is also enjoyable in its own way. It is something that I feel is worth keeping together. Right?
Absolutely. Embrace what the deck tells you it wants to be. Right.
Yeah.
There are times that I've built value decks where it's just about, doing one thing and making 3 other things happen. And they end up telling me that they want to be combo decks where, hey, you've got, 2 or 3 infinite combos in here. Yeah. And it just kind of pushes you to that line naturally. Yeah. And hey, if that's what the deck wants to be, then that's what the deck wants to be. If that's not what you want the deck to be then you've got to make that decision. Is this a deck that I want to continue playing? Is this fun for my play group? Yeah. And, they either stay together or they come apart.
Exactly. I mean, I've been, I suppose, lucky in that over the course of my Commander career, I've only had like 2 or 3 decks that have ever sort of come apart. Right. Because most other decks have been able to at least either, evolve or, stay in a form that I'm relatively happy with. Mm-hmm. But the ones that have come apart are either ones that I've grown out of. Like my very first Commander deck when I first got into the format, like in 2009 or whatever, was an Earl the Miststalker deck, which was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. But I mean, not my Earl the Miststalker deck is probably going to have 90% the same cards as that guy over there's Earl the Miststalker deck, or that person over there's Earl the Miststalker deck, right? Like
very linear.
It's a very linear, straight ahead sort of Voltron build. And I tried to evolve it by, like, there wasn't much red in it at one point. So I decided, okay, I'm going to maybe change. I think I've changed to Krond as the commander. Right. And I cut the red out. And it was, like, fine. But then it was just a white-green Enchantress deck. And I'd been playing that deck for, like, a few years. And it was like, I was just tired of that. And And so I just retired the deck, and it's fine. And I still have the Earl, and I still think about maybe rebuilding it at some point. But, I mean, that time hasn't come yet.
Right. Well, if you do end up rebuilding it, it needs to have a unique direction to it.
Exactly.
Right? There's no sense in building it if it's going to be that same Earl deck that you built previously.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I need to either build it as, all, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how I'd build it differently, right? Because
it hasn't shown itself yet.
Red is not exactly an Enchantress powerhouse, so.
Right. Not unless they do something new with the color anytime soon, right?
Like maybe if they'd done more bestow or something, but like they haven't, right?
Exactly. But you never know. We're getting a new set coming up soon that's aimed at our format with Commander Legends. Right. And in that set, we're aiming to get a myriad of returning mechanics, along with partner as a returning mechanic. You mentioned Okan and Zyndersplit as partners that you're running and that you've got a deck for. How do you feel about the original partners, the partner with any other partner?
I mean, I think they're fine cards. Obviously, I think a couple of them were a little pushed, in terms of like Timna and Thrasios. And, but like, those cards are fine as is. And, just the fact that, okay, sure, maybe, putting them together at the head of a deck can, let you do some disgusting things. But like, that's no different than what, say the new Omnath can let you do. Other than that, instead of Omnath, you have, these 2 separate, card advantage engines.
Yeah.
There. I think it's fine. I think the issue isn't partner itself. I think the issue is individual partners might be a little strong.
Right. And with us getting, I think that they said 30 something new partners in
41.
Commander.
No, sorry. Is it 40? Yeah, it's 41 new partners.
41 new partners,
one of them is
Prismatic
the
Piper included.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
but with these new partners coming, do you think that it's going to help kind of evolve the format a little bit more, give people much more variety?
It should. I mean, I don't see how it can't, considering it's giving us literally, it's more than doubling the number of possible decks that exist in the format at that point, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's good. I think it'll let people express. It also will express themselves with decks more. It also will solve problems that some people have. Like my partner has the full 32 deck spread, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of each color identity. She has a couple of spare decks as well.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always been a couple of color identities like a Azorius and stuff that she's never been super happy with, never really found that right commander.
Right.
And so hopefully with this, we have 40 new monocolored partners coming. So that's 8 in each color, probably. I mean, so that's 64 possible new Azorius combinations, right? So hopefully one of those will appeal to her, right? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the new synergies that pop up, or some of the new mechanics that are going to be on commanders that we've not seen on commanders previously, that are going to open up entirely new archetypes potential.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Or just give a little bit of extra power, or people keep talking about, say the problem with mono white decks or Boros decks, but with, say, new possibilities for partnered mono white decks, that'll be interesting depending what they do, sort of thing.
Right.
Or new, 64 new Boros decks. There's probably going to be something interesting there. Plus, probably at least a couple 2-color Boros commanders in the other 30 legends, right? So
yeah, exactly. And that's a fantastic point. That it has really seemed like this year, especially the year of Commander, has been the year where Wizards has said, we have heard you. We know what you want for this format. Let us help you. And they've kind of really pushed out a lot of product that has helped evolve the format. I think Ikoria has been one of the best sets for the format that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Even though companions didn't make much of a splash in the format, they're still interesting cards, and I've still seen a lot of them in the 99 of decks, certainly.
Absolutely. Companion is an interesting question here. I am on a crusade right now to get Companion workable in Commander. I am running a deck right now in the current season of my deck building that is a Zaxara and Gyruda deck.
Oh, nice.
So it's built with all even casting cost cards. Nice. It's got Gyruda as the commander, and damn it, this deck will be good.
Yeah, sounds good. As long as someone doesn't drop a void manure.
Right, exactly. In that case, I can't even. Right?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. Anyway.
So with the general partners taken care of, they have shown us a spin on this with the partner with the specific partner with combos like Okan and Zinder Split, and with a combo that we want to explore today.
Yeah.
Why don't you let us know what partner combo you're interested in us doing a brew on today?
Yeah, so this is probably my next project after a rebuild on one of my other decks. I just need to double check the titles, but you can edit this out.
All good. I can let you know. It is Nikara Lair Scavenger and Yannick Scavenging Sentinel.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah. So those are the two that I'm interested in doing the brew on. I currently don't, in my assortment of decks, I currently don't have a counter-based deck, and I don't have any sort of blink deck. And so those are things that would work very well with these two.
Right.
And I mean, I just like Nikara's ability, and Yannick's a very interesting card. Plus, it's a Hyena Beast, which is cool. And, you know.
Absolutely. And in the Abzan colors, you kind of have yourself spoiled for things in all of those categories, whether it be blink, whether it be counters. there is just a ton of synergy in these colors that can lend itself to a pretty straightforward shell for a deck, or we can take it some interesting places.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
Right? So in terms of kind of the two potential avenues here, the counters strategy or the blink strategy, where would you typically start off building this deck?
Well, I'd probably start with the stuff that I definitely am going to want in the deck. So obviously, like, I probably want to be able to proc Nikara as much as possible, right? So I want basically all of my creatures to get at least some counters, but I don't necessarily want to have a ton of counters on everything all the time, right? So I probably want to look more in the wide counters rather than tall counters sort of direction, right?
Right. So it's just about anything that puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature when it, say, enters the battlefield.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So like you have your Juniper Order Ranger, you have your you have the original Johnny Goldmane.
Right.
You have the new Felidar Retreat.
You've got Cathar's Crusade, which is a big favorite of mine.
Yeah, that card is always just more trouble than it's worth, in my opinion. Right. I've put it in and taken it out of so many decks just because it's just like, maybe if this was digital, sure, but like it's just, it's so much. It's just too much. I mean, I might put it in this deck just because it's a counters deck. Right. And this feels like a deck that's not necessarily going super wide necessarily. Like it's not going to, like, this isn't a tokens deck. It's not, I'm not going to have a zillion things. I just want things with that. But even other stuff like the mono white Anafenza Spirit.
Yeah.
What's her
with
name?
Support.
Kintry Spirit is that's what her name. Yeah.
There's Good Fortune Unicorn.
Yeah. Good Fortune Unicorn is new. A new one. Yeah.
Renata Called to the Hunt is out
Renata
of
Called to the Heart. Yeah.
Theros as well.
Grumgully, but that's fine. Yeah.
And trust me, if we could run Grumgully, I would run him in every deck possible. I love that card.
He's someone I considered building, but like there's too many just broken. It's like, I just need to sack Outlet and a persist creature, and like, yay, I've gone infinite. Woo.
Yeah, I've put them together and taken them apart a dozen times because it's just
too easy.
Exactly. It's too straightforward. It's 3-card combos, one of them being your commander. It's
like either that or you just don't run any persist creatures, or you don't run anything that benefits. And then if you're not running anything that benefits, then, what's the point, right? Like,
right.
It's like, but back to Nikara and Yannik. Things, obviously, there's also the blink side of it, where you want to look at things that do stuff when they enter, when they leave, specifically. So there are some interesting things for that. One direction I could take it, I don't know if I will, but one possible, like, completely sort of different access to put this on, since we're looking at things with counters, is you could make this sort of an Arcbound deck. Yeah. With a bunch of like artifact creatures. Right. With the what's that ability called? Modular, yeah. With like modular and that, because then that works well with Yannick's ability. Or is it when it dies? I forget.
So the modular is when the creature dies, you can put the +1/+1 counters on another artifact creature.
But either way, it's still pretty good. Like, yeah.
It means that it's creatures that enter the battlefield with counters. Yeah. And that way you don't have to jump through any extra hoops in order to get the value.
Yeah. And I mean, just even other creatures that just naturally enter counters or put counters on themselves, that's always the good step. Stuff like Fertilid obviously would probably make this deck.
Right. And you've got creatures that blink as well. Yeah. So you've got the Felidar Guardians, you've got the Restoration Angels, you've got the Fiend Hunters. Yeah. Anything that
white Eldrazi.
What's it called? I've got it here on my list. It is Eldrazi Displacer.
Yeah, that guy. But then you're adding basically a fourth color, which is awkward, but you're going to run some colorless lands, I suppose. But
right. When you're in 3 colors, you can run things like the Pain Lands as well, which tap naturally for colorless.
Like tri-lands.
Exactly.
That's fair. Yeah.
And there's a lot just synergy-wise that you can run that is on both ends, the +1/+1 counters, the enter the battlefields, things like that, that can really just result in good benefit for both strategies in this. I really like, and I need to think of the name, it is... it's a beast that enters the battlefield and puts a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. 5 mana out of Kaladesh.
Each other creature.
And the name is escaping me, which is a shame because I should have encyclopedic knowledge. It's I want to say it's Ripscale or something.
Let me check here.
No, that's Ripscale Predator. That's not the one.
Ridgescale Tusker.
Ridgescale. Thank you. I knew it was something similar to that.
Yeah.
But it enters the battlefield and puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, meaning it works for both the +1/+1 counter side and the blink side of the deck. And those kind of hand-holding synergies are what starts to make a deck hum.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, there's also the green evolved creatures. Those will be good here.
Absolutely. I really like Renegade Krasis because not only does it evolve, but it puts +1/+1 counters on your other creatures too.
Other stuff that could be fun in this is we're in the right colors to play scavenge creatures.
Right. Absolutely.
Certainly at least Varls.
Yes, Varolz is a great one that protects himself and makes use of the stuff that's in your yard too.
Yeah,
I keep saying I am a Golgari man at heart.
Yeah,
any opportunity to use my graveyard as a resource, and I am there 100%.
Exactly. Yeah, Varolz is good. Just other. Another thing that I was thinking is this seems like a good sort of deck for the. I don't know. There's not really a name for them, but the things that. Like the black spells that basically make your creature return if it dies this turn, sort of thing, right?
Right.
Like there's the Malakir Rebirth in the new set.
There's Kaya's Ghost Form.
Kaya's Ghost Form. Yeah, there's some that are auras, some that are spells.
Yeah.
There's that one with a really good Seb art. Can't think of the name of it. But you know the one I mean.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that can lean into kind of an aristocrat's build.
Yeah.
With the redundancy of being able to use those ETB effects.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not going full aristocrats. We're just probably going more like value, sort of cycling from play to graveyard to exile to...
Absolutely.
Then there's also, we specifically want them to die because of Nikara's ability. But there's tons of things.
That makes a creature like Carrion Feeder, for instance, crucial.
Carrion Feeder, good, yeah. Obviously, like, Tyam is good in that, but I mean, that came in the same deck, so that's not a big surprise.
Absolutely.
What else is there that's good?
I really like taking advantage of ETB effects on non-creatures in this deck as well. Things like Guardian Project is basically every creature draws you a card.
I mean, if you're playing a green creature deck, you should be playing Guardian Project.
Right. But also things like Path of Discovery are great in this too.
Oh, Path of Discovery. I have Path of Discovery in my Kogla deck. So good. Especially when I'm picking up creatures and replaying them in that deck. It's just
the value. I think that Path of Discovery is a little underrated right now. I think that it doesn't make the cut in a lot of decks that run green, but basically if you're the majority of your
card advantage, like it's like half of a card draw because you're either drawing a land or getting a scry, basically. Or not a scry, it's a surveil, but whatever. Right.
But getting a +1/+1 counter on your creatures too.
Exactly. Yeah.
The value is there, and it is crazy every time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So this is a kind of deck where if we wanted to lean heavier into a +1/+1 counter synergy, it's very easy to let the expense of the deck get out of control by putting in things like counter doublers in this too. So it really depends on whether you want to include something like a doubling season in this deck, but there are budget options that are in these colors thanks to us being an Abzan that we can include too, like winding constrictors.
Yes,
or
that's the one I was thinking. Or even just Pier. Pier is really good.
Yeah, and Corpsejack Menace is one of my favorites as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So all great options.
I think a lot of people tend to like, that's one thing though, talking about the partner with, a lot of people look at them and don't think about their applications without their partners.
Right.
It always feels a little bad to not play them together, but sometimes like in this sort of deck, I definitely want Pier, even though I can't play Toothy. I'd love Toothy. Toothy would be great, but Pier by himself is great, just adding the extra, being another another or a budget, hardened scales sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. And again, that's a more expensive option that we could run in the deck is a hardened scales as well. Yeah. But when you can get it for a quarter of the cost on a creature instead, it's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Pier is not exactly super cheap, but he's still only $6 versus however much hardened scales is. Right. So.
Right, exactly. And it's, again, these kind of synergies that there are options upon
Hardened
options.
Scales is about the same, actually. So.
Oh, really? I thought Hardened Scales was a lot more because of its seen in Modern play.
Well, that deck got nerfed pretty hard with the Opal banning and stuff. So.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah, no, at least according to Scryfall, they're at about the same price exactly. They're each about 6.5, but yeah.
Well, there you go. If you want one, then you probably want the other as well.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
So being in 3 colors as well, the other thing is that we are in 3 of the best colors for removal in the format. In green, black, and white, you can deal with absolutely anything on the board.
Yeah. So, you want your black-white removal spells. You want your... the one that makes you lose 3 life.
Your Anguished Unmakings.
Yeah, you want your Anguished Unmakings, your D-Sparks, your Utter Ends.
Your Assassin's Trophies, your Abrupt Decays.
Abrupt Decay, I'm sort of iffy on in Commander, because, there's usually something you can hit with it, but, it's more limiting. I guess in conjunction with D-Spark, they make a good pair, so.
Yeah, they're opposite sides of the same coin kind of thing, right?
Exactly. Although D-Spark usually hits something of a bit more value, but...
Yeah, exactly. Spending 2 mana to take something out that costs 7 is...
And to exile it.
Exactly. You also get access to 2 of some of the best just versatile removal spells in Beast Within and Generous Gift, too. And even though they give your opponent a 3/3 creature token...
we're playing counters. Our creatures are going to be bigger.
Exactly. 3/3 is something that we can shrug off pretty easily with the kind of value and the size of the creatures that we're generating.
Exactly.
The versatility of 3 mana instant speed deal with any kind of permanent is amazing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. We also have access to some of the best board wipes too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
One of my favorite board wipes that I think should get more love is Merciless Eviction. Absolutely.
I played that on stream just earlier this week.
Yeah,
so.
it answers anything and it exiles, which is so important these days.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, it just got its first. Well, it didn't get its first foil printing. It got its first foil printing with the nice bulleted list, which I think is really good. So
yeah. Absolutely. It's seen a few printings at this point, but the new format definitely makes things...
with modal cards, I really prefer the clean look of the bulleted list.
Yeah, and I loved seeing the command cards reprinted with the pick 2 and the bulleted list on them as opposed to the lines of text.
Or both did a semicolon, then it cuts off half a word later, and it's It's whatever, they did what they could at that point. But the bulleted list was just such a good invention.
Yeah, it is such an aesthetic improvement, for sure. So you mentioned foil printings there. Are you a foil hound when it comes to your decks?
To some degree. Within reason. I don't know. I like foils of the cards that matter, or the cards that are going to be sticking around. I've been judging for a while, so I have a fair collection of judge foils and just cards in general. But if a foil is at all reasonably priced, and I'm acquiring cards new, if I already have a card and it's something say a hardened scale, say, or a Pier, I already have those cards. and acquiring the foils is, those are probably like, $30 foils, right? Like,
Right.
I'm not going to go out of my way to get those, but like if I'm buying, say, let's say I went the Arcbound direction, right? If I'm picking up the Arcbound creatures, I probably will pick up foil versions of them just because, at this flat point, it's like, 10 cents or $1, right? Like,
right. Yeah. A big difference.
Like within reason. But I mean, I'm also not a big, I don't know, I've never understood the appeal of foil like fetch lands, for example, because they're on the battlefield for like 5 seconds. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like foils. I mean, spells they can go either way, and it depends on sort of the importance. But like something like a removal spell, I don't need it to be foil, right? It's a removal spell, right?
Right.
It's not the focus of anything, but like something splashy, like a big splashy spell, like say, Eerie Ultimatum.
Yes.
For example, of another good card for this deck. Like something like that I would like in foil if I can have it, right?
Absolutely. I like typically, I don't combo foil out a lot of my decks, but I will get foil combo pieces if it's they're pieces that are going to be on the battlefield. And those are just kind of warning signs to my opponents. If it's foil, then you should watch out for it.
Sorry, just thinking of, we were talking about good removal spells. Abzan has Mythos of Nethroi, which is just a really clean, efficient removal spell. It's probably the least flashy of the Mythoses, but it's 3 mana, destroy an on-land permanent, period. Like, or destroy a creature if you don't want to pay the green and white, but like, whatever. It's still really solid.
Yeah, it is that kind of versatility that you want in Commander, because you need to be able to have a spell that will answer just about any threat.
Exactly.
I like spells like Putrefy or Mortify as well.
I'm not a big fan of those myself, but yeah, they definitely have their places.
Right on.
Certainly.
Yeah, it's just the fact that you can deal with a creature or an artifact or a creature or an enchantment means that you can deal with a threat when it pops up.
Exactly.
You always end up kicking yourself when you use a Putrefy to destroy a creature and then later a big splashy artifact hits the battlefield.
No, exactly.
So.
Things like that are really good. And
then how would we look at winning with this? Is this like a go wide, a go deep? Is it a combo strategy?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably combos that we can do with it, but I mean, I tend to like not. I don't know. I mean, I like combos. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's like, we're in Abzan, which is just solid creature colors, so there's nothing wrong with a good beatdown, right? Like, absolutely. We don't need to. And like a lot of people are like, oh, well, okay, if I'm going to beat down, I need like a Crater Hoof, or I need a Pathbreaker Ibex, or, Finale of Devastation. It's like, no, you don't need that. You can just have, 7 creatures and get in for 10, and then get in for 10, and then get in for 10, right?
Yep. Like, a lot of Commander players are afraid to do that, though. They're afraid to not do an Alpha Strike. So if somebody wants to peck in for 10, they're worried about burning a bridge or making an enemy. So a lot of players will just sit back with their army and amass it up until they can just outright win. Otherwise, hey, you turn to the person next to you and you casually deal 15 damage to them. Yeah. They're going to be looking for a way to take you out. And now the rest of the table is going to view you as a threat. So there is that mentality. I can't win the game until I get a Crater Hoof, or I can't win the game until I get a Triumph of the Hordes, right? Yeah. But I am with you. If you poke in for 5, if you poke in for 7, if you poke in for 8 every once in a while, you're going to stir the nest a little bit, but you're going to, in the end, be able to get the incremental value as opposed to having the Alpha Strike.
I mean, it's a game. Someone has to win, and you have to kill your opponents at some point, Right. Too many people, I don't know. I mean, again, people are allowed to play how they want, but I feel that the mentality in a lot of Commander players has shifted to, I have to win all at once, way too much. Absolutely. And it's like, this is still Magic. You can still just attack people and kill people one at a time, right?
Yeah. I really like the incremental value decks. I like the ones that will do like 3 or 4 damage to each of your opponents each turn, kind of thing. Exactly. And then you just do that every turn. And before you know it, you've whittled down the entire table.
Exactly. Also, let's not forget that so many decks in the format use life as a resource.
Mm-hmm.
And, pecking people down, makes it so that, they can't draw a billion cards with their Necropotence, or they can't, use that Citadel of Bolas to super great effect or whatever, right?
They aren't going to add Nas for 30 life.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, they're not gonna, if I've put someone down to, 20, then they have to be more on guard than if they were still at 40, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe they aren't going to be, and like maybe by getting in for, 8 on them, it means that they're not going to get in for 8 on me because they're afraid of me hitting them back for lethal, right? Like, sometimes the best, sometimes the best defense is being offensive, right? Like, it's
absolutely. And as you get higher and higher up into the power scale of EDH, you find it more and more often that players aren't afraid of losing life to combat damage, and they're willing to throw away 30 life in order to draw 30 cards.
Exactly.
But that's where I think the meta at the higher power level has really started to shift into more creature damage, bigger board states, so that you're pressuring people's life totals so that they can't draw cards and they can't use their life as a resource. It plays the same at lower power level, where it's really all about, who takes 15 damage first and puts them on the back foot.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's just, play the game how you want to play it, but like, don't be afraid to, attack. I mean, the people you're playing with understand you're playing Magic. They'll still be your friends after the game. And if someone is taking offense at the fact that you attacked them when they were open, then it's like, this is Magic. This is how the game works. If you don't want to be attacked, have a defender. Have, some reason for me to not want to attack you, right? Like, I get a little annoyed with the people who are like, well, what did I do? It's like, you were open.
Yeah. I took advantage of the opportunity.
You were open and you played like 3 mana rocks on your first 2 turns, like.
100%. And it's the people that take like 1 damage. You attack them with a mana dork 1 turn and they're like, you've made an enemy for life here.
Right? It's like, don't do that. But also, I also don't like the people who are like, well, I don't want anyone to be mad at me, so I'm going to roll a dice. It's like, own your attack. Like, if you're going to attack someone, then own the attack. And if you can't decide who to attack, maybe don't attack.
Be accountable for your decisions.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm still going to be mad at you. Like, if I was going to be mad at you for attacking me for 1, it doesn't matter for me if you chose it or if the dice chose it, right?
Absolutely. And that's something that you can talk to Jeremy Knoll about, because I've seen that man lose games on dice rolls more than people at a craps table.
Exactly.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, like, when I play Mana Crypt, it might as well just say at the beginning of your upkeep, take 3 damage.
Exactly. I count my lucky stars because I am lucky with Mana Crypt flips. I'll go an entire game without taking damage from my Crypt. So
I mean, like, you just if you're playing Mana Crypt, you just sort of have to expect to be taking that average of 1.5 damage a round, right? Like,
I say that, but I have also lost games from my Mana Crypt damage. Exactly. And I think everybody has been left at 3 life with a Mana Crypt out, with the rest of the table just crossing their fingers that it's going to deal the last points of damage. So,
or like one person is hoping you live because if you die, then they're the next easiest target, sort of thing.
Yeah. Or that person that swung out to put you at 3 life now knows that they're getting all of the heat now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. So before we wrap up and we take a look at the final deck list from everything that we've talked about here today, Charlotte, why don't you let us know again where we can find you?
Sure. Best way to get in touch with me is on Twitter at JQLGirl, JQL Girl. Also, you can find me on the Rules Committee Discord and several other Discords, but that's the easiest one to find me on. Where I'm just as Charlotte under the CAG heading. I'm always happy to talk to people about the format. I'm happy to appear on podcasts and, just listen to what people have to say. So please get in touch if you want to talk or you just want someone to listen to you. And
amazing. Thank you, Charlotte, so much for your time. Really do appreciate having you out. And I think that we've put together a pretty sweet list. So let's take a look at the final list now.
All right.
So here's the list that we've come up with after Charlotte and I put our heads together. We've included a lot of synergies that cross the lines of both a +1/+1 counters deck plus a blink deck. So we've got a lot of creatures with enter the battlefield effects, but creatures with enter the battlefield effects that might put +1/+1 counters on themselves. This includes Knight of Autumn, Ridgescale Tusker, or Juniper Order Ranger. This way we've got some synergies to put targeted +1/+1 counters on things with non-creature permanents like the Great Henge, Felidar Retreat, Cathar's Crusade, or Path of Discovery, and ways to make those counters stack up. Hardened Scales, Winding Constrictor, Corpsejack Menace, plenty of ways to ensure that we're getting more counters more often. And we've got spells that blink our permanents as well, so that we get extra value. Not only do we want the Yannick and Nikara synergies, but we want the rest of our deck to hum too. The real thing that we want to do is ensure that with our creatures not going wide, even though there are over 30 creatures in the deck, we want to make sure that every creature gets a bit bigger and can swing in for that incremental value. Overall, this is a beater of a deck and what I would call a mid-range deck that seeks to just swing in for chip damage every once in a while with something big and swingy with a good half dozen +1/+1 counters on it. I think we've put together a great deck, and I hope that Charlotte likes it as well, and I hope that you like it too. Do let us know if this has inspired you to do your own Yannick and Nikara brew. I wanted to thank Charlotte for coming out and speaking to me today. It is always fantastic to get some insights from the minds on the Commander Advisory group. Charlotte, if you ever feel like coming back on the show or jamming some games, I am always down. And if you are ready for our season finale of season 2 of Let's Do a Brew, get ready because it's coming next week with a very special guest. Hint, they're on the rules committee. If you do like this content, please comment and please like and please share. Everything helps the channel grow. Until next time, folks, good luck and have fun.